All right, good evening, Commission. My name is Haley Webb. I'm our Development Review Coordinator for the Planning Division. For city staff, you have Mike Gardner, our city engineer, as well as Zach Pons, our Director of Planning. This commission is made up of 5 members, and this is the first meeting we have had since June of 2021. So just a quick overview of how the evening will go. Staff will give you a presentation on the one case that we have. Afterwards, you all can ask us questions if you have any. Petitioner will come up to answer any additional questions you may have. And afterwards, we'll open it up to comments for the 3 of you to kind of discuss amongst yourselves what you like, dislike, anything else that kind of comes up. Afterwards, your comments will be taken to our Planning and Zoning Commission, where they will consider your comments with their recommendation. And our Planning Commission serves as a recommending body for the Riverfront Development District to City Council. So City Council will have the final say on this project, and so you guys are the first ones to see it. So we'll jump right in. The area that we're looking at this evening is at 219 Greensboro Avenue. It's right there on the corner of Jack Warner and Greensboro, formerly known as River Hill Apartments. Here's an aerial view right across from the Riverfront Village and our new Parker Hahn, just catty corner across from this. And here's a map of the zoning. It's zoned Riverfront development. And here is that subject property as it sits today. This is a view from Greensboro. And then here is the back of the building. That's along Jack Warner Parkway. So looking at it, you've got Riverfront Village right behind you. Looking into the narrative from the petitioner, what they're wanting to do here, they would like to convert the existing structure, transform it a little bit. They want to do 21 bedroom units, eventually coming through to condo it out. They would also like to upgrade that space that you see along Jack Warner Parkway. They want to update and elevate that facade to have that be commercial space. This redevelopment, they stated, will help finish out all of the other major investments at this intersection. They would like this to be a for sale product in the future, not the commercial space, but that residential component to it. And then jumping into those plans, here's an overview of the site plan. You see Building A is that L shape that sits at the corner of Greensboro and Jack Warner. Building B faces solely Greensboro. And then looking at the interior levels, this is that basement for Building A, where they would like that proposed commercial space to go. Both buildings will remain intact. This is going to be a redevelopment. So the buildings themselves will stay, but the interior will change. And here is level 1 for Building A. So as you can see, these are larger 1-bedroom multifamily units. And here is that second floor again, maintaining the multifamily use, or the residential use. Looking at Building B right next door, this is that one that only faces Greensboro. They have a basement as well, so they've shown that. And then looking at that first level, how those individual units could look. Again, these are all 1-bedroom, and the second floor. Then getting into the elevations and what this could look like, kind of putting a picture to it, this is what they have proposed. So really you'll see the most major change happen along Jack Warner with that facade activation. Good image of that is the bottom right where it says Building A View 2. You see they have those roll-up doors that are there today, but those will be fully glass. You can see through them all the way, as well as inputting windows on that side as well. And then here's another view of Building A. And now we're going next door to the building that's solely accessed from Greensboro. And again, just a lot of overall improvement, uplifting to the building. And then a part of this review process, we did get in touch with other departments to see if any comments would be provided, and the Planning Division, as well as the Office of the City Engineer, have requested that sidewalks are constructed along Jack Warner Parkway, and Office of the City Engineer is also requesting that the valley gutter that exists along Jack Warner Parkway is replaced with standard curb and gutter. So looking at all of this, do you have any questions for staff right now? All right, well then we'll let the applicant come forward.
Good evening, Richard Henry, 1901 8th Avenue, Tuscaloosa. I think most of you are familiar with the site. It probably looks the best right now that it has in years, and it has a long way to go. Staff did a good job presenting. The basis of what we're doing interior-wise is they're essentially motel rooms now, and we're going to make one unit or one room, bedroom and bathroom, and take the one next to it, combine them, make that the living room kitchen. So instead of just being a small, I mean, they're like 12 by 14 or 12 by 16 rooms now. We'll take two of them and make them just one bedrooms. There's 10 in each building when we get done combining them. And then the basement is pretty cool. So if you look at that bottom right picture right there, and you see that kind of black line going through the parking lot here, that's actually the basement. The basement goes all the way under the parking lot. That's actually elevated structured parking. So the basement is like 5,000 or 6,000 square feet. We're not sure what we're going to do with it yet, but I mean, it's probably 16 feet tall down there and wide open. So it could be something really cool. We're not sure what the market will send to us on that yet, but that's why we're putting in glass roll-up doors. We may have a drive-in use. It very well could become a retail, or, I mean, restaurant's going to be a little hard to figure out just with a venting, hood vents and stuff, but it could be a cool space down there. So we're not sure what'll end up happening there, but we're going to go ahead and do a white box down there so that people can see what it'll be like. Property will be fully sprinkled, switching from a metal to a dimensional shingle roof, trying to just make the overall site more appealing than it is now. So happy to answer any questions. So the way we have it laid out, we have 20 parking spots for 20 residential units, but we don't have, there's a construction fence there now, but that'll come out after construction, so there won't be any like gated parking, but it will be, the parking will all go with the residential unit. So in theory, you have one park per bedroom or per unit. So, and I don't believe we have any parking requirements in this area, but we do, functionally, we need it. So we do have the one-to-one. Yes, ma'am.
I'm curious, as you bring up parking, who will be responsible for any intrusions by non-residents who will be parking there and getting in the way of your occupants?
Yeah, so it'll have an HOA or a COA, a condo association. So association management would be tasked with enforcing any parking or towing of private property or anything like that. And there will be, the building will be managed by a professional management company. We'll hire a company to handle the association management for the whole property. So.
Just real quick, can y'all make sure your mics are on, the green lights?
What's the total time that you think this will take?
I'm not sure, when are we able to go to council?
Yeah, so you'll be on Planning Commission next, and then from there you can request to move it to council.
So we have to have council approval of this before we can get a building permit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think best case scenario, we're probably looking 4 weeks to get a building permit. I mean, I'd love to tell you we'd be ready for first football game, but probably into the fall, you know, ideally by the end of the, I mean, I don't see any reason unless we hit some major, couldn't get the electrical services or something like that by end of the year, but we'll move pretty quick on it. So, I mean, we're in there now doing demolition, and so we should have a blank shell really as soon as we get building permit, should be ready to go full steam.
I mean, So I assume it's just a full gut though, right? I mean, like it's just.
Oh, yeah, there's
Really,
no-
it's just a shell is all you're keeping.
Structure only. I mean, we've already pulled out all the mechanical, electrical, plumbing. I mean, we're gonna reframe the roof line. We're gonna vault the second floor. I mean, we're not keeping anything outside of structure. I mean, all windows will be replaced. The roof's gonna be completely replaced. I mean, there's some wood, but mostly it's keeping concrete and brick and block. So all new doors, everything, so.
Was there a pool in front of one of these buildings like 100 years ago?
There was a pool in this area, and so we've
Okay.
recently pulled a lot of that out of there and regraded it, trying to tie it in with what the city's finishing up on Jack Warner. It'd been neat to put it back, but I don't know that it would have fit right there on the corner.
So it
There's
seems,
pictures of it, though. You see like on these old things on Facebook, and there's like pictures of people sitting around that pool.
I can remember it, actually.
yeah, I can remember that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, look, there's a ton of residential down there. I mean, I can't think of any reason why, I mean, you know, why this wouldn't be a good project. I mean, because it looks terrible now, so anything you're going to do is going to be good. But I was just curious, was there, I mean, you're a smart guy, so was there any thought, like, behind highest and best use of other things that you thought of, like you said, like restaurants or just, you know, bulldozing it?
So the previous ownership, you know, they were gonna keep the structure and do a hotel style. And then they had it on the market for a couple of years, and I think other people have looked at it, looking at tearing down. That's not really in our business model of tearing stuff down, so it's a cool corner, but it's hard access. I mean, if you tear it down and try to do structured parking and all that, I mean, your ingress and egress is gonna get interesting, and it would really need to be part of some huge assemblage, but there's a massive, or I say it's massive, there's a good-sized sewer line that runs down the back side of it. I mean, there's a lot of infrastructure right there around it. It'd be a interesting deal to try to work
Cost of
around
time.
some of that.
I figured. I think it looks good.
Yeah, I don't have questions, but I would like to make a few comments for the record, please. My role here is to represent the residential neighborhoods that are contiguous to Jack Warner and to the Riverfront. We, as neighborhoods, really appreciate this opportunity to be knowledgeable about what the projects are and to join with the city in maintaining the integrity of the downtown neighborhoods and the whole vision that is being carried forward. I realize that we are just an advisory group, but I encourage the city to continue to convene this, this advisory committee. Mr. Henry, I want to commend you on having the vision and the courage to take on what has been a horrible eyesore. Unlike these gentlemen, I don't remember the pool. I just remember some of the more gruesome aspects of a piece of property that we are all very happy to see reinvigorated and vitalized. And as you and I discussed in our informal conversation, I think that this corner is so integral to the whole vision of what we're all trying to invest in and accomplish down in that area. So I personally, and on behalf of our neighborhoods, I've got confidence in you. Your parents live in a historic neighborhood downtown, and you have lived there, I think, growing up. We believe that you will meet and exceed our expectations, and we'll count on you and your team to do that. Thank you.
Yep, and I'll just echo what Kelly said. Yep, Richard, I think it looks great. I've driven by that property so many times and thought somebody needs to do something with that because there's so much other things being done around there, and so I appreciate you, investing, in this property. So good luck with everything. I've seen other stuff you've done, so if it's as good as everything else, it'll be great.
Yeah, I'll have to say the same. It'd be a welcome change, just sort of complete the whole area down there. Looking forward to it.
Great, yeah, thank you guys for those comments. Could y'all also comment on staff's comments and just kind of give some feedback there on the sidewalk issue? Or really, the idea behind it is we just want to see what you guys think as the advisory committee.
So I have a question about that. Is the plan to have the sidewalk to go all the way down to, is that 21st? No, or is it just in front of that building?
So this property, along with everything to the east of this property, till you get to the new Comfort Inn, is all prime for redevelopment. And our ask and request, and it's actually part of our regulations, is for the sidewalk connectivity. So as these parcels on to the east develop, what we want to have is a sidewalk on the south side of Jack Warner, just like is on the north side. This will allow patrons to go from business to business on the south side of the road, connectivity over to the park, access to the amphitheater, eventually Sabin Center. You know, there's just a hub of a lot of, community activity there, and we feel that the sidewalk is a crucial element to this part.
So then, sorry, y'all have a question? So I think my next question would be, is it going to make them have to, like, do anything to their building or is it just, is there room? Because I'm just looking at it, it doesn't look like there's a ton of room to even.
So there is room. Normally, we like to have a grass buffer between the sidewalk and the curb line, but it's not always achievable. That's an outdated photo there. In the redevelopment of Jack Warner, with the limitations the constraints that were there, on the north side of the road, there are segments of the sidewalk that abut the curb. And we would likewise work with this developer on a location of that sidewalk along Jack Warner that's beneficial to us all.
So we were made aware of that earlier in the week. We hadn't heard that in the pre-design meeting or until earlier this week. We heard that request. I've had a conversation with Mr. Garner about it. There's some questions to be answered on that. When the area here was granted to the city by previous owner, part of that negotiation addressed a potential sidewalk. It also addressed who paid for and installed any modifications as it related to site work and improvements on that Jack Warner development. It was also addressed in some previous land development permits here. So we're trying to work through that, but it was our understanding through those conversations with previous ownership, the legal department, and previous city engineer, that would be, if something of that nature was needed, that the city would provide that. So we're still trying to work through that as of the conversation we had earlier in the week. So I do want to be on the record of that. I struggle a little bit of like a major $8 million infrastructure project or whatever it was that probably hadn't even been closed out, and now we're making modifications to it, that the private sector who donated the land for some of that infrastructure is now bearing that cost. So we're in ongoing discussions on that. So.
I mean, yeah, it is tough to think about what else would be there in the future. And so it does make sense to have a sidewalk there. I mean, I don't see why anybody would ever say that they wouldn't want a sidewalk. But I mean, maybe I'm just being naive. Like, how much is it? Like, how much would a sidewalk be to put through? Do you know? I mean, I guess I just wouldn't think it.
Some of the problem with it is in theory, yes, like where you're thinking is like it's 30 feet, like the grades are a problem, where all the grades of the existing site, the finished floor elevation of the existing basement, the new grades of the brand new road, and trying to work all that in, it may take a lot to do a simple sidewalk. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, $8,000 for a normal sidewalk, but if you got to get into a bunch of retaining walls and then you got to get into handrails and you got to get into a lot of stuff, it just may become a lot more. In some of it, there were more questions to make other modifications to take away the vehicular access to the basement was in the original ask, and that does change our functionality of the property. So to your point, in theory, yes, if it is simple, it's not that big of a deal, but if it becomes into more and more trying to get it, you know, if it's on the city right of way and we build it, we're gonna have to build it to ADA spec. Well, if we can't get the slope right, you may not be able to achieve an ADA sidewalk. The city's probably not gonna wanna accept one that's not built right, and the cost to build one right may be, if it's even possible, it may be pretty high.
Can y'all comment on what he was saying about whether the city would pay for it or not?
I will comment that we will be willing to work with the developer. Some of the challenges that he's mentioning are true. I've looked at it, and I think there's ways that we can accommodate a sidewalk. So as far as going on the record, I just want to say we'll work with the developer in that
Yeah,
aspect.
because what we don't want to do is deter developers from putting their, investing, right? And you don't want, Richard
True.
saying like, hey, you got to be careful because you'll get burnt, right? Or him not investing again, right? So that's where I'm.
And I think this advisory committee, the next step, the planning commission, and then ultimately the city council all have one main goal in mind, and that is what is in the best interest of the city and the citizens and the people that are going to use this area. And I wouldn't think a small financial challenge for sidewalk, we would let that impede something that long-term we'd go, oh gosh, I wish we'd have done that. I'd hate for us to end up with a small gap with no sidewalk, and the developments to the east can accommodate a sidewalk, and they install it. So that's why I say we're willing to discuss this and work with this developer. But I believe it's paramount that we have connectivity from the hotel. I keep mentioning the hotel because you can't get all the way to 21st. You've got to buy a building or two to accomplish that. And we all know that's not practical. But we have a hotel already in operation there. And those residents don't need to plan on driving to everywhere they want to go. Not residents, but you know what I mean.
I don't disagree with the thought. Again, though, we struggle with, the city isn't even done with the project that's there. It was previous city engineer, so I'm not putting this on Mike, but I don't disagree with his thought, but the city just spent $8 million, and they didn't, somebody somewhere thought about that and didn't do it. They got the land and didn't do it, and we just struggle with it now. I mean, it'd be different if, nobody disturbed that right away in 50 years and it wasn't ever going to be disturbed, and we're just but I guess I'd go back to why didn't we do that 6 weeks ago? We had the street blocked off. We all know that, so we had the opportunity. But again, we'll work with the city on that and see what works best for everybody. So.
Well, clearly the city has demonstrated the importance of walkability and the fact that you've got people going from the intermodal center to the stadium. So I think long-term it is definitely in the city of Tuscaloosa's best interest to work successfully with the developer on the walkability down Jack Warner and not create any impediment.
Agreed.
Especially considering where this is, it's pretty important that there is walkability with the amphitheater across the street and a lot going on over here, so I'm not sure who it's gonna, yeah. I think it would be important to have sidewalks there.
Great, yeah, I think, and again, we'll work with the developer as well on that. Other than that, I mean, if y'all have any closing comments, questions, anything like that, we can go ahead and adjourn if y'all are good.
I say roll tide.
Yeah, should be an interesting next couple of days. All right, well, thank you guys.
Thanks.
Thanks, y'all.